Yeah.
No conversation about building resilient organizations would be complete without addressing the biggest force reshaping work, leadership, and competition, AI. But I promise this isn't just another AI hype cycle talk. Eric Vaughan, CEO of Ignite Tech, is here to challenge the way we think about AI at the highest levels of leadership. Because here's the truth. Most CEOs are outsourcing AI decisions, and in most cases, that's a dangerous mistake. Policies are being written by people who may not understand the technology. Cultures of fear are locking down innovation, and companies that wait will find themselves outrun by organizations that are not just experimenting with AI, but rewiring how they work because of it. Eric doesn't come by way of theory, he comes from the trenches. At Ignite Tech, he's led a transformation that replaced 80% of the workforce in 1 year. Not for cost savings, but to enable faster innovation. They launched 2 new products in 9 months. It's not about replacing people, it's about equipping teams with tools and mindsets that scale human potential. This is not a tech lead, it's a leadership lead. And CEOs who don't take it will be replaced by those who do. So with that, please welcome Eric.
I can change the world. I'll be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Okay, that sounds like a crowd that's been here all day. Could I just try just one more time and say good afternoon? There you go. Now, that was my brother Eric singing a song called Change the World. And is that not appropriate music for this talk right now? I think it is, absolutely, because I think changing the world is exactly what's happening in every single way. Now, before I get started, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is I'm the last presentation before cocktails. The bad news is they've changed the schedule. They've asked me to talk for 3.5 hours, so everybody just settle in. Maybe they'll bring them over. So I'm Eric Vaughan. I'm the CEO of Ignite Tech and GFI Software, as Joellen just told you. And over the last year, even 2 years, the entire world has changed for me and for everybody around. I've been in this industry over 30 years. I was the founder and CEO of 3 software companies. I've been running this last company for the last 9 years. And everything changed almost instantaneously. And I think many of you know what I'm talking about, and some of you don't. And that's part of the reason for this talk, to have that discussion. I want to make certain that we're all on that same page, because I think it's incredibly important for this audience, leaders, CEOs, to understand it from the top down. So briefly, I want you to understand who we are so the story makes sense. So Ignite Tech is an enterprise software company. That means we have customers all over the world, across all industries. We have about 40 different products in our portfolio that have come through acquisition. We are not a private equity firm. We're a family office, a 30-year-old company that has been buying companies in the technology industry. We buy them and we keep them and we run them forever. We don't sell them. We're not a PE fund at all. That is exactly the way we have approached building our business in terms of scale and growth. And I think it's really important to highlight we're a private company. I don't release numbers, but we're a 9-digit revenue company, so we're between 100 million and $1 billion. That gives you at least a frame of reference. So we're not small, we're not massive, we're not NVIDIA, but we beat NVIDIA in some ways, which is kind of interesting. I want to talk about that. Revenue per employee, very consistent metric that people use to measure the performance of their company in different ways. You see a lot of names up there, of course, you're going to recognize. Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle, even OpenAI. I saved ours for last because that's what it looked like at the end of 2024. This was our revenue per employee across the board. The other measurement that is really interesting is EBITDA, of course, bottom line. Are we making money? And this is now in the public sector, of course, because private companies don't really release their earnings often. So I've got a number of companies up there. Again, you'll recognize Apple, Oracle, Microsoft, Meta, Broadcom, even NVIDIA. Everybody's talking about NVIDIA, of course. That's been powering the AI. But last year, our EBITDA was 75%. 75% EBITDA, top revenue per employee. And we did all of this while we completely transformed the company. And that's why I want to set that stage. Because what happened was in January of 2023, there was a wake-up call, no question about it. And the wake-up call came from our friend Jensen Huang. Why do I say our friend? Because you can't turn on a news program, business news, or see any kind of an announcement without Jensen. You know it's Jensen because he's always in the same black leather jacket. He's always there to tell you about how he's built this amazing company, NVIDIA. But it was this quote that really resonated with me. This is the iPhone moment from AI, for AI. The iPhone moment, meaning it crossed over from the tech sector. It crossed over from being a tech concern. If you've noticed, everybody around you has been talking about it in one way or another for the last 2 years. And so we realized that this was a moment that was going to change everything. And I have to take exception to my colleague Ed Bastian this morning when he described this as a shiny object. It is a shiny object, but it is one that's changing the world, and it will never go away. It will only morph and get better and different as it comes into play here, right? Now, that shiny object is a term that a lot of people have used for years to point to the latest trend in the tech industry that everybody gets all hyped up about, and software companies start spouting out acronyms that everybody thinks is important. I understand that. This one's different. It's fundamentally different. So I decided, fundamentally, we needed to change because we're a tech company. We're a software company, and our customers expect us to lead. So I needed to launch an AI-powered startup, and unfortunately, there wasn't a guide out there that I could go like, how do I do that? I'm really not really quite certain. A 30-year-old enterprise software company doing the same thing we have for decades in so many different ways. We needed to change that dramatically and radically all at once. And talk about AI startups. These charts are fun. This is just pictures of different logos from all over the world of AI startups in the last 2 years. I mean, it's incredible. VC funding from the Valley is up sky high. People just want to say the word AI and they think that they get funding. It's really quite amazing. Look at the kind of funding that you're getting into these companies. OpenAI, $14 billion. Of course, we know that came from Microsoft. That was Microsoft's big bet into OpenAI. Anthropic has Amazon behind it. This is all, incredible growth in such a short order. We did everything at Ignite Tech without any outside investment, and that's because of what we were able to do with AI. So a lot of times today, people have used this word, culture. It's appropriate. It's appropriate in this venue. It's appropriate at this time, but it's never been more important here because this is not a tech change. It is a culture change. And whenever you undertake a culture change at your organization, you do a lot of work to try to bring people along with you, and I did. We funded everybody with up to $1,200 of education reimbursement on anything related to AI. Didn't even need to get pre-approval. Enabled them to license any tool, the pro version of every tool, so they knew all of the best approaches of what to use and how to really learn about AI. We brought outside experts in to talk to people so everybody would hear that it wasn't just us, that this was really shifting under our feet. So we put everything we could into it. My conscience is clear that we gave everybody a chance to change. At the end of the day, some didn't want to change. They literally just didn't want to. It's that old, lead a horse to water, can't make them drink. Like, we had lots of water. We had different flavors of water. We brought the horses. They just stood there and said, no, we're not going to do it. And we even went a step further. We did something that I thought was really dramatic, and that was really part of the point. We declared something called AI Monday. Here's where I was talking about this at another conference. Every single Monday for a full quarter, you weren't allowed at our company to do anything except work on AI. You could not call customers, work on budgets, write normal code. You could write AI code. You could be taking courses. You could be working on team projects. Now, that's 20% of my payroll every single week. Think about that. We gave them time, space to learn. We declared it. We made it a fun thing, AI Monday. Yeah, AI Monday. It was a lot of fun for a lot of people, but they said, hey, boss, we only got 4 days to get our 5 days of work done. I said, but that's a problem that we need to work to solve, right? That's it. But we were dead serious. No customer calls. Customer fires, absolutely. Customer has a fire, drop everything you do, you get on that. But other than that, you don't schedule customer calls. You're not working on ordinary finance or budgets or anything else. We had to change that culture everywhere. But nonetheless, we still ended up with people that left on their own. Literally had some people that worked for me for a number of years who just said, I just don't believe in this. I don't believe in it. And actually, I became acquainted with that concept as being the most important concept. Belief. They didn't believe. It didn't have a chance if they didn't believe. So we said, of course, that means you're going to have to leave because this is now the culture of the organization. So we had some people that self-selected. We had other people that tried very hard to learn, and we stayed with them for a good year of training. But again, were they committed? Was this a change that they wanted? So they couldn't really hit the bar. We saw this as so fundamental. We saw this as so existential that we had to make those kinds of changes. And I can't say it enough to a group of leaders. This starts with you. It starts with every single person in this room. You've got to lead by example. You've got to declare it important. You have to learn about it. You have to be able to lead your organization through that. And this is what it looked like for me. From Q2 of 23 to Q2 of 24, that's not a staff reduction. People sometimes see that chart and say, wow, you laid off 80% of your people. It's not what we did. We replaced almost 80% of our people. That's what it took to make this kind of dramatic change. As a tech company, I think we're in a different posture than a lot of businesses that are here, certainly, but still that necessity to change the culture and drive it was important. So what we did is we started recruiting for these new roles that we called AI innovation specialists, and across all domains. So AI innovation specialist finance, AI innovation specialist sales, AI innovation specialist support, certainly software engineers. And by the way, PS, of the people that didn't adapt well, anybody have any idea what domain, what area of the company they were under? Anybody want to just shout out some ideas? Sales, finance, etc. Sales, yeah. Finance even. It was the tech people. The software engineers were the most resistant to this change to this day. That absolutely astonishes me. They were the ones that said there's no way it could learn to write code. It's no way that it would know what I know about this software. The finance people said, oh my God, new tools, this is fantastic. The marketing people started writing things, new AI tools that they could use. And I think that's really important. This is a different org chart too. Not only did we change our org and hire new people, AI innovation specialists, but we changed the organization fundamentally. The first person I hired was our chief AI officer, literally a rocket scientist, but a lot of background in AI and machine learning. And we changed the org so literally every single person in the org reports into him and his organization with a strong dotted line to the domain function. So in other words, the CFO has a finance staff, and that CFO knows what they want to get done. But the AI organization helps them understand how to get it done. And that way you're making certain that you're sharing best practices, that work that's been done somewhere else in the org can be shared. You don't have silos of projects happening, somebody trying to write the same kind of thing in multiple places. And admittedly, it was radical. I've been called radical. I've been called extreme, but we saw this as an existential threat. You saw my early slides that what we needed to do was fundamentally change our company. You saw the efficiency, you saw the EBITDA, but that's not what it was about. It was really about driving change and innovation. And what I've learned through this, and many of you will as well, and maybe have, is when you do this, you free people up to do their best work. You free them up from the mundane, the routine, because this is what AI is really good at. And you challenge those people now to do the really incredible things. So we did it in every way we could, including even our website. We wanted our website to be a place that looked and acted completely different. And that's the ability to actually bring one of our brand new products, a patent pending product called My Personas.
I'm an Ignite Tech My Persona and AI expert on all things Ignite Tech, backed up by real humans. I'll do my best to answer any questions, but if I can't, I'll ping my human counterpart for you. Eloquence AI is a platform designed to transform business communication through human-AI collaboration. It is a recent product release from Ignite Tech.
Now, this could be a subject matter expert, could be me, could be anybody in the company. That's not necessarily an avatar that's there. That's somebody that embodies your knowledge, and the people can interact with it straight from your website or another application. The point is, we wrote brand new software from the ground up in 9 months while replacing 80% of our team in a completely new org structure and still achieve those kind of financial results. This is the way we can rebuild our companies. This is the way we can fundamentally change things. And I think that's really important. I'm spending a lot of my time outside of Ignite Tech, walking around, talking to people, going to a variety of conferences. My wife is here. She'll tell you. It's even invaded. I think Chris from Covey said, you know, you're the kind of guy that really believes passionately in something. You're at dinner and suddenly people have said, okay, I've heard enough. That's happening now, right? Because I'm telling everybody, I'm proselytizing like I've never done before, ever in my life, because I'm concerned that they're going to come to me and say, hey, why didn't you tell me my job was going to be obsolete without those skills? Why didn't you tell me that our company was not going to be able to survive if we changed? And I want to have a clear conscience and say, I did. I absolutely did. I think it is that important because some people have this idea. I heard it a little bit with the shiny object, that Gen AI is a fad. It's just a fad. And if I stick my head in the ground, I come up, it'll be gone. Yeah, it's another one of those tech things. And listen, who's to blame anybody for thinking that? Because we're just the masters of hype and tech in the Valley, Silicon Valley. Oh my God, all the latest shiny objects. It's always the greatest thing. It was crypto forever, right? I mean, we've had so many of them throughout our entire careers. But I tell you, this is different. And I care. I really care. I don't want anybody like this. This is Ned. Ned was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Thought it was a shiny object. Didn't want to change. Ended up changing, not by his own accord, right? And thinks he's going to look for non-AI work. Same way that people that used to repair horse and carriages when the automobile came out said, yeah, that automobile's never going to take. It's never going to happen, right? It is that fundamental. I really do believe it. So I understand how difficult this can be. It's like that movie that won all the Oscars a couple of years ago, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. My God, you're hearing it everywhere. Everywhere you go, that's all you hear. There's so much noise. All you hear over and over again. I get it. I'm part of that noise. I understand. I don't know how to get it across anymore, though, that it's more than that, right? Isn't this what we're hearing today?
And so this is how artificial intelligence isn't just in our businesses, it's literally from our living room to the boardroom.
AI, artificial intelligence, is the new general...
Looking at the ability to work well with AI and take advantage of it is now...
Intelligence.
AI is a key enabler.
What AI is created is this whole...
We're going to start using AI for a lot of different applications. At a certain point, AI will be good enough to build a better AI.
I know.
Builds a better
I know
AI.
what it sounds like. It's a cacophony of sounds out there. Now I want to pivot the message. It's not about AI. It is about humans. Humans will prevail with this. Humans will be the master directors with AI. There's all of this fear of taking jobs or being replaced. All of that is completely true if there's not adaptation to employ that. But bringing humans into the loop, humans will be the masters. We always figure this out, folks. We always figure out what works for us in order to control whatever has been put in front of us. And all the scary talk about AI being smarter than us, and pretty soon it will know more than we do. I really don't think that's where you turn your attention to. It is about humans, but it is not about disrupting. Another Silicon Valley term that everybody loves to talk about is disrupt. It's not going to just disrupt industries. It's going to destroy industries. Industries like SaaS software and this old model of user-based seat-based pricing and the way that we've built SaaS software for years. There's this term running around. You probably heard it. It's called solopreneurs. So these are, single people starting $100 million companies. I could name a number of them. There's one called Cursor. Cursor is a company in the AI industry that has 15 people, and they're doing $100 million of ARR last year. They wrote an AI coding tool that many software engineers are using. I mean, this is going to happen. This is going to completely destroy different businesses. And just moving slowly is completely dangerous. And this is the big risk. The big risk is not being willing to take enough risk. I mean, this is scary stuff. And I see it all the time. I see the risk happening, the risk analysis. Everybody's worried we're slowing down. We're developing guardrails. We're developing ways of approaching this and approved applications. But where are the opportunities going while those risks are being mitigated? That's the thing you have to be thinking about. That's the thing that's going to be really challenging for everybody, because the default position is this: just tie it up and shut it down. I've got lots of examples of this. A public company in the tech sector whose CEO stood on the stage with Jensen Huang at a conference and announced a partnership. I happened to be privy to an internal memo from that same company that basically was this: you can't use any tools but this. You must not ever use any of our own data, right? All the things that people are worried about, they're shutting down everywhere they can. And this means that we end up not taking the risks that we need in order to make advances in productivity and to keep competitive. And I can't say that enough. Competitive is important. I challenge your legal teams. If the legal teams are the ones that are helping you write these policies, which certainly that's prudent, that makes sense, make sure they're educated though. Make sure they understand the AI technology. Make sure they understand the terms. Make sure they understand what training data means. That's going to be super important. This was a panel that I was sitting on at a conference called Gen AI Expo just about a month ago. And the gentleman on my right there, your left, is an executive at Cisco. And he had just answered a question about what does it look like at a company like Cisco in terms of AI policies. And he had just responded that it's very locked down. We're not allowed to use any tools unless it's on the approved list. There's no bring your own tool in. And I was asked, what was my response when I heard that? What do I think?
I think companies that are doing exactly what he just described are due. When the CISO has to get involved and the chief counsel needs to get involved and write the regulations, they don't have the knowledge, the experience, and the information to make the right decisions. So they're going to constantly err on the side of abject caution. Maybe that's prudent. Maybe they think it is. Suggested that a mistake at Cisco is a 7-digit mistake. So what? They're rounding error. They need to make those mistakes. And they need to have the CISO is going to write the rules. That better be an AI educated, informed practitioner CISO, not a 20-year-old CISO who's done a little dabbling in AI. Another company of a similar size to Cisco, I won't name, public company, stood on the stage with Jensen Huang announcing a joint partnership with NVIDIA. And I was privy to an internal memo to all the employees of that same company that basically said this: don't do anything unless it's approved. There will be no shadow AI. We're watching everything you do. You must seek approval. And we're just shutting down the innovation that's necessary to stay in this game. When I say Dune, we all hear this term solopreneur, billion-dollar companies created by one person. That's the kind of scale we're talking about, and the disruption that's going to come to the SaaS industry generally, the networking companies, if they aren't as aggressive as they could be. I really believe they're due. Stock will fall. Revenues will go elsewhere. That's the kind of paradigm shift we're having here. You said inmates running the assignment. As the asylum, get new inmates. You need to get the right inmates in to be able to make those rules. Now, I'm not saying throw caution to the wind and blow everything up and, make mistakes along the way. There's prudence, but it needs to come from information and understanding what this means. And we're on a frontier. Nobody yet is the absolute expert. Experts change every week. New models are beating other models. OpenAI looks like they're leading, and then they're not. Everybody loves Claude, but then they're not. DeepSeek came out, but oh no, it was China. This is happening every single day. And so I really do worry about companies like that are experience of they're watching us, we can't do anything, it breaks through the firewalls. Good heavens, right? I just do. That's all I hear when I hear that.
And that is exactly what I'm talking about, right? that kind of shutdown. And this data, look at what's happening, folks. $32 billion of investment expected, $32 billion just in 2025, and that is up from 13 in 2024 in investment in AI. Why am I using these statistics? Because I want you to know where your competitive advantage is or is not if you're not part of this. The Boston Consulting Group is a very well-respected research group that spent a lot of time walking through what's happening in the industry, in the workplace, and in AI. And these next a couple of slides have some really interesting points in here. The Boston Consulting Group surveyed, these are CXO responses across the board. They're all companies of at least $500 million in sales in the US and between 1 and 500 outside of the US. And you can see spread out across sectors, spread out across different geographies everywhere. And here's one statistic that I found just shocking. 1 in 3 companies across all markets are planning to spend $25 million on AI. $25 million for companies of that size. That's unbelievably small. And if you look at the proportion compared in the countries, Japan's ahead of us in investment, but they're only at 26%. I mean, that's not enough. And it's not about just finding efficiencies. The word is innovate. It's like I said, it's not about trying to just create efficiencies and do things quicker and faster and maybe multiply, your capabilities. It's about creating time and space for your best people to do incredible work. That's what they said. 42% intend to go long beyond just deploying AI efficiency, but also to be able to create new products, to be competitive in the market. 2 in 3 companies are having trouble reimagining the culture and the workflow change that they are trying to drive. And this is a very key point. Hiring AI talent and upskilling who you have. We've got companies that are very focused on 70% people and processes in what they're trying to do, but they're still struggling with all of this. And part of it is because the leadership at the top is not there. I have these experiences, meeting with customers. I was at a conference over in London back in November, and I had invited a CEO, one of our customers, to come meet me at this conference. I said, Justin, you can come. He's in the women's clothing business. They're about $1 billion company, several women's clothing lines in the UK and abroad. And I said, you've got to come to this conference. You're really going to benefit from it. There's all kinds of different perspectives. The governor of New Jersey is speaking this afternoon. He said, I'll send my CTO. And I said, no, that's not going to make sense. Like, I'll make room for your CTO too, but you've got to come as well, because the CEO has to lean in and understand what's happening. And he did. He came and he told me at lunch, you are absolutely right. This is something that I need to be aware of. So that's important. Looking at the way people are seeing AI as complementary to what you already have, you can see that's 14% using human talent, AI only when necessary. In this survey, 64% see AI and humans working side by side, but only 22% see AI taking the lead in anything. I want to flip that on its head. I think it should be exactly the other way around. We should delegate as much as we can to the AI that makes it much more, that it's capable of doing on its own, while humans are supervising it and innovating. 75% of executives are ranking Gen AI as a top 3 strategic priority, but only 25% think they're getting any value out of it. A show of hands, how many people have AI implemented in their company in any way? Okay, great number. Now, bring those hands back up if you feel like you're not getting the value out of that. You don't have the ROI from that investment. What does that look like? Okay, all right, that's good. That's great. So there's a perception that there is more. I think that's really important for everybody to know and for everybody to hear. And then finally, what about headcount? Now, this is what do the respondents in this survey believe was going to happen with their workforce? Fewer FTEs, 7%, but look at the top. They actually think this is going to create room to be able to hire more people. That's actually been our experience. We have been able to hire different people in different roles because of these kinds of changes. So I think that's important to know. So not the kind of mass layoffs everybody's predicting. I think that's important. So terminology, it's a big problem. This is why you've got to become more literate, right? It's a real barrier. There's all these new terms out there. People are running around saying things. They're saying vector store and RAG and LLMs and models and all of this. It's a terminology problem, and everybody has to get up to speed on that, because there's language that separates people. Like, all the rage in 2025 is agentic. They said 2025 is the year of the agent. And I believe most people don't even know what that means. And even worse, it sounds scary. It's like, agent. God, that sounds like some disembodied thing that's running around just doing whatever it wants. God, I hope it knows what it's doing and it comes back to me. I mean, it's crazy. Like, this is an email that I got, when was it? Just 2 weeks ago, that I saved for this presentation to put in here. There's this question: are you ready for the agentic AI shift? Are you? Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, so even the terms, people don't even know what it is, and we're a terrible tech industry to do this to people. And we need to change that and talk into more human terms. Because that's that word cloud, which ChatGPT very thoughtfully created for me for this presentation. Just a couple of prompts that said, I'm giving a presentation to a group of CEOs. I'm going to talk about all the terms that separate everybody. Here are 3 or 4 I've got an idea of. What do you think? Make a word cloud with the rest of them in there. Those are all running around. Memory, multimodal prompts. My God, we've heard so much about that. Context windows, hallucination. I'll talk about that a little bit. But I think that's unbelievably important, that you get at least acquainted with the key terms. This is a real experience here. I thought this was funny and wanted to share it with the group. Working on a settlement with one of our attorneys, one of the top patent litigation attorneys in the country. And he sent a settlement document to me and other people and said, we're working through this. I think I got most of the typos out, but I'm still checking. And I wrote it back and I said, dude, why aren't lawyers using AI to catch mistakes so there are never any after the first draft? It's very good at that. He said, I was literally thinking the same thing. And then he said, what tools are you using? I mean, my God, it's just editing, for heaven's sakes, and even these attorneys aren't using it yet. This is how slow rolling it's becoming into the workplace. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So I want to go through a couple of terms because I think they're important for you to know at the level of the room that I have here. I want to talk about models, first of all. People talk about models, that's the M in LLM, large language model, right? And there's a controversy out there, and it's a good controversy. It's a discussion of what's called open or closed models. So opens are what they sound like. They're open source, they're available, they're free of charge. And the good thing about open models, or so people believe, is that you know what's in them. You know what decisions they're making and why they're making them. You hear about this thing called guardrails, which is like, if a guy asks you to design a nuclear bomb, do not give him the instructions. That's a gross example of a guardrail, okay? But that's programming that somebody did inside of the system that the LLM is in. When it's open, you get to see what those guardrails are. So you can feel a little bit more comfortable. What's more, you can take those models and you can make your own. You can change those instructions. You can guide it yourself to some extent. In a closed model, that's OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, or Claude, which is Anthropic, or several others. They're much more powerful. They're by far the best out there. They're the ones everybody uses, right? ChatGPT became the brand name for this, but there's many others as well. But you also aren't sure what's going on. So there's a controversy about that. You need to acquaint yourself with it, and you need to ask your people. So are we thinking about using open models or closed models? And why? And which ones? And I read something recently. Those are the kinds of things that you want to start saying to your team. Hallucination. I asked ChatGPT to create a graphic that would illustrate its ability to hallucinate. And that's what it came up with. 2 + 2 = 5. I was working on a document a couple of weeks ago. It's an important document. It's about 40 pages deep. And I had been working for hours with the AI, going back and forth and changing things. And then I said, you know, it would be really helpful to have citations in this document to go back and refer to several of the key points we made. No problem. Came out beautiful hyperlinks and Forrester study and Gartner group and all that. It's great. And then I started clicking on those links, and not one of them worked. Not one of them. And I went back and I said, hey, what the hell is that? Why are these links not working? Oh, I fabricated those. Literally said I fabricated those links. I said, well, what are you doing? This is important work. I can't have you fabricating things. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I should never have done that. From now on, I won't. And then I was using Claude, and if you've used Claude, it's very amusing because you see the visual dialogue. It went and changed the document, took all the links out. Like I could see them erase it. Took them all out, every one of them. Like, whoa. So then I worked for a little bit more, got towards the end, and I said, now listen, buddy. Remember how I asked you about citations, and then you made all that stuff up? We've established that you can't do that anymore. So I still want some citations, but I need you to make certain that they're rock solid and that they work. And it did, and it gave me good citations. Now, this is what I call doing the work. Every time I hear somebody say, I tried ChatGPT, it didn't work for me. What did you ask it to do? I said, write an article that sounds like me. That's literally the instruction it gave. It has no idea what you sound like. Did you ingest all kinds of past things that you've written so it understands your writing style? Did you teach it? Did you work it? Did you trust it just implicitly? This is where AI is getting a bad name. But if you work with it, it will work with you, and you can get that kind of work. So it's about grounding. You see this term up here, grounding. That's another one of the terms that I think are important. Grounding means grounded in fact, grounded in reality, grounding to not improvise. You have, in all of these models, AI, for a reason that many people can't really understand, is over-eager to make you happy. 24/7 in any language you want to talk. It's really quite amazing. And it will do so at its own detriment by making things up. So you have to do the work. And human oversight, again, becomes essential. And so this vision is not AI disembodied running around doing things. It's working with you. And so all this investment that I'm advocating and talking about, including cultural changes at your company, upskilling and training, hiring where you need to, you're going to have to measure that ROI in a way that you never have before. The KPIs that you've used in the past for that, we spent this much, did we save that much, is not going to be the way you're going to think about it. You now need to say, what's possible for us to do that was never possible before? And that's from the small mundane, like translations, where we all used to pay translation services to create take documents or websites or any kind of material and translate it to multiple languages. We'd pay money, we'd take time, we'd edit it and go back and forth. It speaks 160 languages, and it's not perfect, but it's absolutely good enough. You can do that now quickly. Or, more importantly, create a brand new product in 9 months from the ground up with a team that didn't work in the same company a year ago. That's what we did, right? What's possible now that was not before? That's how you'll measure our ROI, and also in being able to do things in hours, not days, or days, not weeks. The ability to pull things in and really understand what's happening. I know many of us are using these days, we're using Read AI or Firefly or some of these other tools that are attending meetings, Zoom, Google Meet, and the like. My God, that's such a rich source of information. When I was creating this presentation, before the session, I had a conference call with the chief executive group to talk about what this was going to be about. And I just fed the transcript of that into Claude when I was creating this presentation and said, oh, you said you're going to talk about that. No, they said, would you make sure you talk about that? And it's great. I didn't have to remember anything. It put it all together and gave me an outline to really write it. I think those are the kind of things you have to think about in terms of ROI. And do you have better data now to make, to develop insights and make better decisions? So it's really good at developing insights if you give it the chance. If you say, here's a spreadsheet that shows the pattern of salary changes over the year for a company that you're looking to acquire, what insights do you have? And it might spot some anomalies. It may see some pay grades that are out of range. We may come up with ideas that you've never seen or even thought about before. These are the kind of capabilities that you're going to use to measure the ROI. And more importantly, does it give you a competitive differentiation? Because if you don't have competitors yet eating your lunch because they're ahead, they're coming. They're absolutely coming. And it's not a generational thing. This is not a tech thing. This is not. One other point I want to make is everybody talks about cloud. A lot of our data is in the cloud these days. The United States is a lot more friendly about that. Europe's a little more afraid putting data in the cloud, but this is shocking. Broadcom CEO, a gentleman named Hock Tan, who has really transformed his company, acquired a company called VMware and CA Technologies a couple of years ago, and they're also a chip maker. He quoted this at a recent presentation he gave. 61% of corporate data is still not in the cloud. It's either in a private cloud or in on-premise data centers. So as you're developing your technology strategy with AI, and you're talking to AI vendors who are trying to write the next best thing, ask them, do they have any plan to address the data that's locked up in your on-premise repositories? Because most of them don't. They're taking the easy route and go cloud only. That's important. 83%, Hock Tan said, people are thinking of moving data back to a private, out of the cloud, because of AI, because they feel more comfortable that their data is in their hands and under their control and not in the amorphous cloud that we've subscribed to for years. So that's important. So, AI can do many things. There was a great study done by the Wharton Group that talked about AI as the great leveler. So lower skilled workers take big boosts compared to even more moderate or senior level skills. Now everybody, this is the rising tide floats all boats scenario. It absolutely is. But you can find people that could do, I'll just use as an example, in our support environment, we find that our entry-level technical support people have risen to an L2 level quality of technical support by using AI to augment their skills and augment their problem determination. So it's a fantastic way to change everybody in your org. It's from the entry level all the way through the org. And I think that's really important. Don't forget that 8% hiring increase that I quoted in that other slide. I wanted to really punctuate that. People are thinking of being able to hire more because they've been able to level up their team. So this now brings me to something that I've come up with called the laziness quotient. And I had a really hard time trying to create a slide that is communicating this, but I think it's here. It is human nature to want to do the least amount of work to get the best result. I think that's true. That doesn't say the least amount of work to do the minimal amount of work, right? But the least amount of work. We don't want to do more than we need to in order to get work done. And AI is driving that in spades. I go back to my example of all I did was say, write a document that sounds like me. That's lazy. And on that graph, you're going to get a poor quality result, right? Put a little bit more effort into it, and what you get is a much better result by working with it and giving it the data that it needs. But curiously, in the laziness quotient, if you push it too far and give it too much data, you're now over-engineering and you'll start seeing diminishing returns. There's a new sweep of action in the AI industry called Vibe. Anybody have heard of this? Vibe coding? So Vibe literally means to talk. So Andrew Ng, NG, one of the fathers of AI, he's the guy that came up with this. He basically said, I'm just going to tell the AI what I want to write. I'm not even going to tell it what language to use. I'm not going to tell it how to design the UI. I'm just going to say, go build that for me, and it does it. And even more, I'm going to dictate it verbally. There's all these tools out there. There's tools like, one's called Super Whisper I've got running on my Mac now, which is more than dictation. It's not like that what we have on our phones and the like now. You can talk to it and actually tell it, hey, I want to write a paper and it's about upskilling the workforce. Wait, scratch that. I want to talk more about upskilling senior leaders. And when you get that transcription, it fixed all that for you. And so the laziness quotient is driving it. People don't even want to type anymore. They actually want to move back from their keyboards and talk to it to make it work. So it's an interesting time. And this talent revolution is super important. You see this picture on the left. If you're not offering these skills and the availability of the tools and the culture to change, you're going to find yourself competing for the best talent and losing without that in your arsenal. People are leaving companies because they feel oppressed from being able to learn this, what they now believe to be an important life skill. And that's going to be really important to be able to keep people in this. It's not only recruiting, but it's also retaining. And we're seeing that happen in spades now. There was never a time where you saw positions that started with AI. But if you look at LinkedIn on my company's website, you'll find all my people call themselves AI marketers or AI sales reps or AI support reps, because that is what we put forth as the number one thing that they should bring to the table. And so you're going to also see this. This is happening. Zero salary roles headcount. We're in the process right now. I mentioned that we're an acquisitive company. We're in the process right now of moving very close to closing on another large technology company acquisition. And for the very first time, my team is assessing the go-forward headcount plan, and we actually have roles in there that are AI roles, because we know the AI can do that very specific role. Could be, again, level 1 outreach to accounts. It could be level 1 technical support. And so gone are the days of the traditional org chart. You're actually going to see this now, where you're going to budget for $0 AI headcount. It's a different way of thinking. And it is about replacing, not augmenting, because you want to move this around in this world where you're deploying AI to do either units of work on its own or doing at least augmentation for somebody else's, the human side of the work. So in preparing for this talk, again, on that very same call, Dan, who we've seen all day long, did the interview this morning with Ed, he said he was talking to Mark Benioff, the Salesforce CEO, and he said this: I'm the last CEO you're ever going to meet that only managed humans. And I said, that's a great quote. I'm putting it in the presentation. It's fantastic. I do believe that to be true. Today, that's where we are. We only think that way. Most of the conversations are around human management. In the near future, it's going to be human working with AI and making the two work together. I think that's absolutely important. And then finally, you're going to have these autonomous AI systems. So what that means, this is what everybody's calling agents. It's literally AI that's programmed to go out and do a specific task, but it's going to come back to you, the CEO, and all of your reports, and you're going to manage that workflow, right? So it's a big change in management, even for the CEOs. And I think that's absolutely important, because this is the reality. We're going to see this now, right? People are applying for jobs alongside the AI, and if you're not upskilled, you're not there, then that's what you're going to see. Don't be surprised. So constant learning, I think this is super important. I'm going to give you, I know we're making these slides available after the conference. I'm going to give you several things. You need to be acquainted with the technology. You need to understand what's happening. There's several newsletters that you should consider following to keep yourself abreast of the terms and what's happening in the industry. The Rundown, TLDR AI, and X, certainly. That's my X list. If you don't know exactly who to follow, start by looking at who I'm following and choose from some of those to follow, because X is very active for the conversation right now, the latest announcements, what the latest technology is, what people think. It's also a great place for debate that'll keep you up to speed and make it so you'll be able to ask the questions that you need to. And literally, down here is actually a picture of my calendar. I put X time on my calendar every single day to enforce the discipline to make sure I spend time learning and reading and filling my brain full of the latest terms. So I know what's happening as well. And you're going to be the ones to lead with these questions, right? These are all real questions from just the last couple of weeks. Hey, Claude 3.7 came out, Mr. CIO. Are we switching everybody over to 3.7? Is that our recommendation? What I've heard is really good at coding, right? Manus for 2 weeks ago was the term. This is an agentic system that came out. You want to fill yourself full of this information so you can talk to your team about this. Don't let them dictate it and talk to you and put it back, right? And when you think about governance, I talked about shutting it down. I highly recommend you think about avoiding excessive restrictions. You don't want to be overly permissive. No one's saying you should just open the kimono in the door and just let everybody do whatever they want, but make informed, practical choices with those guardrails by informed, educated leaders who have written those policies. I think that's super important. So you want to think about this. How are you going to compete? Because that's who you're lining up against, right? That's at least your competitor who's bringing AI along with it. How are you going to compete? And 100%, your business is going to be changed. Maybe not this month, maybe not this year, but very soon. People often ask me, what do you see in 5 years? And I laugh and I say, 5 years? I could barely tell you 5 months the way things are changing. It's so dramatic. But what I know is it's going to change, and it's changing rapidly. It's very much a gold rush, folks. People are out there trying to find the gold. It's just like that. Some are finding fool's gold. Other people are finding real gold. We don't know who's going to win. Looks like OpenAI is ahead, then Claude's ahead. We don't know who's ahead. We don't know who's going to win. Microsoft went all in on OpenAI, and now that relationship is souring a little bit. So we don't know, but we have to stay ahead in order to be able to drive that kind of exponential change. So thinking about the next 12 to 18 months, that's what I leave you as a framework. The next 12 to 18 months is critical, right? You need to be decisive. That's my takeaway for you today. Because if you wait, you're putting yourself and your career and your company at risk. But you have the ability to completely change your company and have a rebirth in a way that's really quite dramatic. And if you do that, you've got the ability to destroy your competitors, to dominate industry, to do things like no one else ever has. Now, I highly recommend that you get your team in some sort of an executive AI boot camp, okay? All leadership, not just CTO or CIO, CFO, Chief Human Resources Officer, everybody, so they really understand all aspects of it. There's a lot of different options for that. The CEO must be involved. I told the story of my friend Justin. CEO's got to be involved, got to be knowledgeable. That's absolutely key and very important. You're going to want to do that because you're going to drive the kind of dividends that you've never seen, but that's very important. I have also put together something called AI for CEOs. And AI for CEOs is literally a remote learning workshop to be able to bring CEOs and only CEOs and equivalent managing directors, presidents, chairperson together for a series of sessions called AI for CEOs to really be able to address this at that level. And there's information on that. I think that that is something that's absolutely key. It's absolutely important. I talked about creating this presentation, and it was a lot of fun. I literally, for the first time in my life, didn't create a single slide, not a single slide. AI created everything you just saw, the images, the text, but it laid it out with my thinking and with my coaching. I spent a lot of time on it, but nonetheless, I didn't have to do all the work. You can do that as well in order to really show your team that you're using it and walking the walk and talking the talk. So I think it's super important. I hope you heard a call to action today. I don't think it's a shiny toy. I do think it's a fundamental change that everybody's got to get after. I think it's pivotal that we drive culture change. That's been the operative word of the day, and I hope you do it. Thank you very much.